Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for another Tuesday afternoon program here with the Genealogy Center. We are looking forward to today's program, which will be exploring the Ortssippenbücher collection at the St. Louis County Library. All right, so we are getting close, so I'll go ahead and introduce our speaker for today. Robin McDonough is our speaker, and she is the Outreach and Programming Coordinator for the History and Genealogy Department at the St. Louis County Library. She's been working in the department for 7 years and has been working on her own family history for over 20 years. And that includes several German lines. So Robin is a former history teacher and she has a Master of Science degree in education. So we are glad to have her here today, and I'll go ahead and hand it over to her.
Okay, well, I am going to share my screen. Hopefully everybody can see that. Thank you so much for that warm welcome, and thank you everyone who is attending today. I'm so happy to be here. I love to talk about this wonderful resource that we have at the St. Louis County Library. And just to add about the weather, it is a little overcast here in St. Louis, but I thought the sun was peeking out when I was at lunch, so we might have a breakthrough there. So, and pretty good temperatures today, pretty mild temperatures today here in St. Louis. So again, welcome everyone. Today's presentation is using Ortssippenbücher to research your German ancestors. I'm going to go ahead and turn my video off so you all can have the whole screen to look at the slides, and then I'll come back on for the Q&A later. I would love to answer any questions that you might have. As we begin here, we know that church records are a vital source of genealogical information, especially for our German family history research. Once you discover your ancestor's place of origin, the local church records can take you as far back as the mid-16th century. Some of you have probably been able to do this. I know I have with a couple of my German lines. But such research has its challenges. The script is sometimes hard to read. There's a language that you're not used to looking at, etc. So if only there was a shortcut. And actually there is, in the form of what are called Ortssippenbücher. You'll also hear them called other names, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. But here are some examples of some that we have in our collection. Objectives today, specifically, we want to learn what are Ortssippenbücher, we want to learn how to find them, and we want to learn how to use them. So hopefully we will accomplish those three things today. Okay, first of all, what are these books, these Ortssippenbücher? Well, the translation is actually local kin book, if you were to put it in Google Translate. You'll also hear Ortssippenbuch, which would be singular, and then I've been saying Ortssippenbücher for plural. But you'll also see these come under the title Familienbuch, Ortsfamilienbuch, which would be local family book. Sometimes the title will say Die Einwohner von, or the inhabitants of, or the Familien of, that sort of thing. So you'll see those types of things in the titles for these books so that you can recognize that that's what you're looking at. Okay, we affectionately here at the St. Louis County Library, we just call them OSBs for short. Okay, what are some specifics about these books? Well, they feature concise genealogical information about inhabitants of a specific town, village, or parish in Germany. They're based primarily on surviving local church records, although they may also use other records, such as civil records or court records, to sometimes supplement what is in those church books. They cover the period from the beginning of church records, so again, as early as about the mid-16th century, to about 1900 is what you usually see covered in these books. And the books usually are specific to the Catholic or the Lutheran population in a town. So sometimes you'll actually find more than one of these books for a town. So sometimes you will find that. And occasionally you might find both in a book, but usually it's one or the other. Okay. Unfortunately, these can sometimes evoke the Nazi era in Germany. This is because some of these books were actually created in the 1930s when they were intended as aids for establishing the racial purity of individuals. Now, good thing for us, that wasn't very many of them. Most OSBs have been created more recently and simply for genealogical purposes for all of us trying to trace our German families. So that's a good thing. Okay, these are, however, to be considered a secondary source. This information in these books was extracted and compiled from original records, like I said, usually church records. So they are considered a secondary source. These OSBs, though, are very reliable. I would say, though, you can always take the additional step of checking the information against the original records for yourself, if it's possible to do that. And usually it is. It's just a matter of finding where those records are. And I'll show you an example of that a little bit later. The good thing is OSBs do usually include a list of sources. So, you can usually know where the records came from. Like I said, it's just a matter of finding those records. Okay, the availability. So these OSBs are not available for every town. They are more common for some areas of Germany as opposed to others. It just kind of depends on where people are publishing these. Many have also been published for German-speaking towns outside of Germany, such as the area of Alsace and Lorraine in France, and German settlements in present-day Serbia, Romania, Hungary, and others. So they aren't necessarily confined to just the present day boundaries of Germany. Okay, quick note about your ancestors' place of origin. So no comprehensive index, no list of names or anything like that for these Ortssippenbücher exists. So it is necessary for you to know your ancestors' town of origin. For those of us doing German research, that could be a whole nother talk or two or three as far as how to find that out. But you will need to know that in order to utilize this resource. So if you're not quite there yet, that's okay. Remember everything that we talk about today, and then once you know that town, you can come back and utilize this resource if there is a book for your town. Okay, where can we find a list of OSBs that have been published? Well, this is our current website. It is a little bit under construction. We just had a website upgrade, and a lot of the links for the history and genealogy section have been broken. So I'm actually going to take you in through another route. We have some LibGuides that we've created, so I'm going to send you there instead. So if you would like to see a list of the books that have been published and for what towns, I usually like to send people to the GenWiki site. And in order to do that, you're going to want to find it on our LibGuide. And I did put links for this and for all of these things that I'm talking about, all of these addresses in the handout. So you can click on them through that. But what you're going to do if you Google search it is St. Louis genealogy and put local history LibGuide. And again, I apologize. We kind of had to get people to these resources as well as we could with the website being worked on. So if you Google that, it's going to take you to your results. And actually this first one, this LibGuides for the St. Louis genealogy and local history is the one that you're going to want. And if you click on that, it's going to take you to a LibGuide that we've created for, again, a lot of these resources that people are having a hard time reaching on our website. So if you scroll down, you'll see over here, Ortssippenbücher and Familienbücher. So you're going to want to click there, and it's going to take you to the LibGuide for that right there. So most of what you're going to need is here. So the first thing that I want to show you is the OSB websites. So if you click there, it's going to take you to another page here with a list of OSBs on the GenWiki website. So there's the list, that one's online, and then the one below it is just the general list of printed books. So we're going to click there, And it's actually going to take you to a page that looks like this. Or you can get to it, of course, from this address. But like I said, it's probably easier to just Google, and you can check out what else we have on that LibGuide there. This is actually part of CompGen. So if you've done German research and you've ever used CompGen, this is actually a part of that. So I always like to tell people you might want to translate this page into English, because usually it's going to come through as in German. So when you do that, it's local family book. So if we scroll down, we're going to get to a list in alphabetical order of all of these Ortssippenbücher. I'm going to show you an example here. There's a town called Flechtingen. And if you click on that, this is one that I've looked at. If you click on that, it's going to take you to a page specifically for that book. And it will show you that, yes, there is a book for this town. It will even show you what it looks like in most cases, what the cover looks like. Then I can actually go further down and I can see that there is a register of names that are mentioned in this book. And in this case, I have ancestors in that area with the surname Grahn, Grahn. So I can actually click on Grahn here, and it gives me another page just about that surname. I don't think they do this anymore because this is a fairly old screenshot, but they used to actually link you to the GeoGen maps where the surname Grahn was found. Like I said, I'm not sure they still do that, but I thought that was kind of a neat link that they did. So now we know that the surname Grahn is in fact found in the Flechtingen Ortssippenbücher. Okay. So what are we going to do next? So we know there's a book out there for the town that we're looking for, and we know that it mentions Grahns. So what I would suggest doing first is checking out what we have at the St. Louis County Library. So once you know that it exists, you're going to want to look for a library that owns it. The St. Louis County Library's History and Genealogy Department has the largest collection of these in the United States. We have over 2,100. I'm not exactly sure how many. Other libraries have a lot of these as well. It's not like we just have all of them. A lot of libraries have these. So, you may find them other places, but I think we're a good place to start just because we do have a lot of them. And we also have a free lookup service. So if we do have the book that you're looking for, we will scan the pages for you and send them to you for free. Okay, so if we go back to that LibGuide, instead of clicking on that OSB websites, we're just going to go down here. This is where we have 2 PDF documents that list all of the books that we have. If you know the town or the village name, you can use this one where the arrow is pointing, village name is A to Z. If you're not sure, you just want to see what we have in a particular area, or you want to see if maybe there are any surrounding towns surrounding yours, you might want to use the one above by country, state, and district. But in this case, we're going to take a look at the village names. So if we click on that, we have this PDF document in alphabetical order, and in the place column over to the far left, we're going to have the names of all of the towns that we have Ortssippenbücher for. Notice that this document is recent as of September 2020. So keep that in mind. We're going to scroll down and we're going to look for the one that I mentioned, Flechtingen, because we know that that exists, and we do actually have that one. So it tells me the name, it tells me, the area where it's from. It gives me the full title as well as that call number of that book. Okay, so if we go back here to the catalog, so I mentioned that list was current as of September 2020. If there is a town that you're looking for that you don't see on that list, I would go ahead and pop the name of the town into our catalog and see if anything comes up, because we have received many more of these since 2020, and a lot of them are, they're still in the process of being cataloged. But like I said, we're always receiving and processing these. So I would try to see if maybe we've gotten one in since then. So we know that we already have Flechtingen, but we're going to use this as an example anyway, and we're going to go ahead and put it In the box there, again, list current as of 2020. That's 3 years worth of books that we have been getting in that aren't going to be on that list. So we're going to search for that town, and you see that it does come up, of course, in our catalog. And, that way you would know that we had it, and you could request pages from it. Okay, let me talk a little bit about that lookup service. So if you go to our website, and actually easiest way is to just put lookup request and search the website, not the catalog. And what it will take you to is a lookup request form. So if you click there, this is what the page looks like. It gives you some information about what kind of requests we take. Obviously not research requests, but we do lookups in indexed sources, and we do lookups again in these Ortssippenbücher. So if you scroll down, you'll start to see fields that you fill in down at the bottom. So you would start with your name, your email, you would tell us the title of the book. And then with the OSBs, we usually ask that you tell us the surname that you're looking for in that book. And then what we typically do is we go ahead and scan, as long as it's not over 30 pages, we go ahead and scan all of the pages for that surname. Since the way these books work, and we're going to talk about that in just a little bit, is you're going to be moving backwards through the book following a line of a family. So you're most likely going to want all of those pages of that surname anyway. So that's what we typically do. Okay. If you are planning on visiting the St. Louis County Library, you can also email us at genealogy@slcl.org and request to view this book at the Daniel Boone branch. We are currently in a temporary location. We are at one of our branch libraries while they rebuild our building that housed the History and Genealogy Department. The Ortssippenbücher are available, but they are kept in a storage location, but we can retrieve them, like I said, to do the lookups, or we can have them sent to Daniel Boone if you wanted to view one in person. There's about a 2-week turnaround time for that. So again, if you were planning on making a trip down here, you would want to let us know in plenty of time for us to get that book. Okay, another thing to keep in mind is WorldCat. So again, if you see that a book exists for your town, if we don't have it, the St. Louis County Library doesn't have it, you might want to try to put it in WorldCat. So again, we're going to use our same town as an example, just to show you what that looks like in there. And you see that it is in WorldCat. And if we scroll down, we see what libraries have it. In this case, St. Louis County Library, Family Search Library out in Salt Lake City does have it. And then we go to back over to Germany as far as the libraries that have it. So, so if you were wanting pages out of that book, you would definitely want to contact us for that one. Okay, how are these books organized? Well, they're usually alphabetical, which is nice. But I say usually because there certainly are variations here and there, but they usually present genealogical information alphabetically by surname and then chronologically with listings for each individual. And you'll see what I mean by that shortly. They often group people with the same surname but with different spellings together, which is nice because sometimes you do see some variations in the records, but it's the same surname. So they do usually group that together, but you always want to double check if you're working with a surname that does have multiple spellings. You always want to check within that OSB to make sure that there's not another section of that surname spelled a little bit differently. Again, there are variations with all of these books, but they do definitely use a somewhat standard format, and most of them also use the same symbols and abbreviations, which make the entries easy to decipher, even if you don't know much German. Some common symbols that you'll see in these books, an asterisk for a birth, a tilde for a baptism, and so on. And so you'll pretty much see these in most of the books. If you want to know about some of the other symbols that are used, this is a great website that has a good list of OSB symbols. It's from the Ostfriesen Genealogical Society. It's just ogsa.org. And so they have a very good list of symbols. You'll also usually see symbols in each book. You'll see a key for what symbols you're going to see in the book. Okay, we are going to use an example right now of the Kolb family, and we're going to look at an actual Ortssippenbuch, and we're going to follow this family back as far as we can in this book. So again, this is the Kolb family. The book that we're going to be using is the Familienbuch Dieborg, 1603 to 1900. This is a book with Catholic that has been made from Catholic records. So the people in this book all were going to the Roman Catholic Church in Dieborg. And I will say that this one, I'm using this one as an example because there is a lot of information in it, and it really shows you what you can find in an OSB. But I want to caution you that not all of them are this detailed. So the priests at this church were really writing down a lot of great information about these parishioners. You don't always find quite this much. So just something to keep in mind. All right, so there's just as to reiterate, has a lot of detail, might not always find this much. Okay, so this is one of the pages at the beginning of the book. I mentioned that there are sources usually given in each book, and you'll see that word is Quellen. And so it's telling you where they're getting this information. Most of this is going to be from the Roman Catholic records, and even usually within the entries, it will give you symbols to tell you where that information is coming from. Okay, symbols and abbreviations, like I said, are given in this book towards the front. So we see, sort of some of the same symbols I talked about with the star and the tilde and all of that. Again, very common to see these same symbols in many, many of these books. Okay, there is sort of an index within this book. They're calling it a register, but usually there's not a need to use this because usually the book is done in alphabetical order by surname. So usually you can go to that section with that surname and find out most of what you're wanting to look for. I think there are times when you might want to use this if you were looking for a surname that maybe you don't know, maybe they married into, you're not sure who they married. So you want to find out where other places where that surname appears in the book. But generally, if you're tracing an ancestor back, you're probably just going to go to that section. Okay, and this is the beginning of the book. You'll see we start with the A's, and we are just going in alphabetical order. So the person that we're going to look at first is right here. So actually, what you're going to want to do is start with the immigrant or the most recent ancestor, of course, and work backward. So in this case, we're going to be looking at a gentleman by the name of Xaver Francis Kolb. So I'm going to pull that out of there and I'm going to make it larger. Oh, I'm sorry. I had his name backwards. He is Franz Xaver Kolb. I guess English-wise, that would be Francis Xavier Kolb. And here is his entry in the book. So the first thing that we're going to want to do, let me go back real quick. First thing that we're going to want to do is we're going to want to find him in the book because he's the immigrant. He is our starting point, and we're going to be working backwards. Okay, so blowing him up again, we have Franz Xaver Kolb, and we're going to get a lot of information about him, and we're also going to want to figure out how that information is organized because every one of these entries is going to be organized in the same way. So once we figure that out, we're doing pretty well. So he is going to be assigned a number, and in this case, it's 4896. So in this book, they're putting the number above the person. And then for some reason, which I don't always see this, they're giving us his marriage information up at the top and the other information, sort of next to him. So again, you just have to figure out how it's organized. So in this case, they're giving us his occupation, which was a Handelsmann, which would be just a tradesman, and he was a shoemaker more specifically. So we get that information. And then we're also getting his vitals here. So we're getting his birth and his baptism. And you'll notice that that says RKDI, and that stands for Roman Catholic Diborg. So that's where that information came from. We're also getting his death, which is that cross there. But notice it doesn't say where that information came from, because actually he was the immigrant. So he would have died over here. But somehow that must have been reported back to his hometown. So they're actually even giving us his sort of like his address, which is very cool. Again, you don't always see that. And then we have that he died in America. Again, he was the immigrant, so he did die over here. So like I said, if we go back up, for some reason in this book, they give us the marriage information at the top. So we see those 2 rings. He was married in 1865. And it also gives us the witnesses at his wedding. So it's giving us that. All right, and now it's giving us his spouse's information. So his wife's name was Eva Schluter, and she has a number assigned to her as well. It's 7716. Now, we are going to concentrate on the Kolb family right now, but if this was your family, you would eventually want to explore her line as well. So you'd want to remember that number, and you'd want to look that number up in the book as well. So we have her vitals here, her birth and her baptism. And then we have Auswandert. So she was an immigrant. Of course, he was as well, but it's giving us this information under her for some reason. Some other things is another piece of information that they give is when they left. So they left in 1877, and their destination was North America, which it tells us here. Again, you don't always see that, but this one is very detailed. Okay, and remember, it's giving us the sources, so I just wanted to point that out as well. It's also telling us in that paragraph which children went with them to America as well. And speaking of the children, here they are here. So we have Katerina, and we have her birth and death her birth and baptismal information. We also have her godparents. And you'll notice with this family, they were very strict about naming the children after the godparents in almost every case. So it's interesting. Then we have Heinrich. And then we have, let's see, and actually Heinrich would not have made the trip over to America, because it looks like he unfortunately died young. Because we have a birth and a baptism for him, and then we also have a death and a burial for him as well, born in 1868 and died in 1874. So the next child is Anna Maria, and we have her information. She died young as well, because then we have another Anna Maria, and then we have an Adam, and then we have a Joseph. So we have this whole family together listed in this OSB. Now, we're going to go back up to the top, and we're going to look at this number. So Franz's number was 4896. This number says 4888. So remember, I said we're going backwards. This is going to be the number for his parents section. So what we're going to do is we are going to take note of that number. We're going to flip back a couple pages in the book, and we're going to find that one. So here it is here. If we blow it up, we have 4888. So here we have a Franz Anton Kolb II, and he is a Maurermeister. It says here, and that was a master mason. We have his birth, baptismal. Actually, no, I think we just have baptismal information and a birth and a burial for him. So he did not come over to the United States. He died in Germany. And if we go up to the top, we have his marriage information, married in 1835. We see his wife is Maria Anna Suzanne May. And we have her vitals, and then we have their children. But I'm skipping down to Franz Xaver, who was their son, because there's one piece of information in this that we don't get from his entry, and that is his godparents, or at least his godfather, who he was obviously named after, who was Franz Xaver Hemans. So that's a piece that we didn't get in his. Okay, so now we're going to look back up at the top. So now we know that our immigrants' parents were Franz Anton Kolb and Maria May. But now we want to go back further on that Kolb side. So we're going to look at these other two numbers up here, 4882 and 4884. Now, usually you only see one number, so we're not sure what's going on there. So let's check those out. So let's go back a few pages. This is 4884, and let's go ahead and blow it up. And actually what we see here is 4884 is the same person. It's Franz Anton Kolb II. Same thing, Maurermeister, all of that. But this is a different marriage date. It's an earlier marriage date. The other one was, I believe, 1835. And there is a different spouse, a Katerina Gruber. So this was actually, and it looks like she died in 1834. Remember, the first marriage was, the second marriage was 1835. So this is actually his first marriage that they're giving us this information here. So our line doesn't go back to this marriage, but it is interesting to have this because these would be obviously half siblings of the person that we're tracing. So let's go ahead then and go to 4882, which should be his parents. So here's 4882. We're going to blow that up. And yes, this would be his parents, 4882, Johannes Kolb. Okay, he was also a master mason. You can see there. We have his vitals, born in 1772, died in 1855. And then his marriage up here in 1796. Again, all of these, it says the RKDI, so we know that it's coming from those Roman Catholic records. And his wife was a Barbara Grimm. So of course, all of the children are listed, but now we've gotten back another generation in the book here. So we're going to focus on that next number, which is 4881. So we're going to look just above his information in the book. And here is 4881. So we're going to blow that up. 4881 is right here. We have another Johann Kolb. He is also a master mason, but he is also on the city council. So again, that's why I say this, the priests in this parish were writing down a whole lot of information, but remember, some of this may have come from other civil records and other types of things as well. And the people making this book went ahead and they did a combination of all of those records. So this is a really, really good example of an OSB. Okay, his birth and death information. And this one even tells you what he died of, which was Wassersucht, which was dropsy. And then we have his marriage up here, 1767. And then, of course, his wife was a Maria Elizabeth Weber. And again, we have the numbers for all of these spouses. So we can trace their lines back in this book as well. Okay, so here's the next number that we're going to want to look for, 4879, going backwards. So we go to 4879, and that's right here. So let's blow this one up. We have another Franz Xaver Kolb. He was also a Mason right here. And now this entry is a little bit shorter. So we don't have as much information about this particular person. So what we do have is he was born around 1700. And notice ERR means Erreichnet, or around, and he was not born in Dieborg. He was born in Wurt am Main, which is a very close neighboring town. So most likely he was born there, migrated to Dieborg for whatever reason. And so, we don't have as much information because we're not dealing in the records, the church records from the original town. We're dealing with just the records from the Dieborg town. So we don't have quite as much information. We do have a marriage, though, an estimated, again, VOR, ERR, they're kind of the same thing, around this date. So, but we do have an Amelie. We do have a wife, no last name, though. Same thing with her as far as born around 1704. But we do have another number here. So this means we can go back maybe one more step. So we have a 4877. So if we go ahead and go back to that one, again, the entry is getting a little bit shorter, but we have a Karl Kolb. And Karl Kolb, again, 4877, Karl Kolb was born around 1670, again, in the same town, Wurt am Main, and we don't have another number to go to. We have a marriage. We don't have another number to go to for him, but we do have a spouse, Maria Barbara Kukel, and we have a father, a Friedrich Kolb. So somewhere these people must have been mentioned, particularly the father must have been mentioned. Actually, it looks here like this marriage was taken from the Roman Catholic Wurt am Main records. So they were able to extract those, and probably that father maybe was mentioned in that marriage record. So again, they do have a father, but unfortunately we are done here because we don't have another number to go back to. But the good news is we were able to trace this family through 6 generations using this book. We got so much great information, again, from the church officials writing down a lot of information to the publishers, the writers using other types of information. We were able to get a really good look at this family with so many specifics about their occupations, all of their vital records, all of that. I mentioned finding the records on your own. Again, OSBs being a secondary source material. This is actually that original marriage that I did find on Family Search. So those Roman Catholic Dieborg records are on Family Search. And right here is actually that first marriage that we looked at, the immigrant, Franz Xaver Kolb and Eva Schluter. And this is actually their marriage on Family Search, on the Family Search website. So, they condensed all of that information and they put it into the OSB. And I'm sure glad they did, because it's a whole lot easier to go back and now and pick out what what you've seen in that OSB in this record, because it is certainly very hard to read, especially if you're not used to dealing with the German script. Okay, so again, this is their marriage. All right, some OSBs can be found online. So that was, of course, an example from a print OSB. Some of these can be found online. The way that you would find these is on that LibGuide. There is a link to list of online OSBs on the GenWiki website. So if you click there, it's going to kind of look the same, but instead of local family book, it's going to be online local family book. And if you scroll down, you have the same type of thing where you have a list, alphabetical list of all of the ones that I suppose the GenWiki is aware of. And we're going to use Narenburg as an example. So if we click on that town, we're taken to the page for that town, but notice there's not a picture of the book because, again, this is not a printed book, but we do have some links down here. And sometimes it's kind of hard to tell which link is actually going to take you to the book. In this case, it's this first one. this index, this first link here. So we're going to click on that, and it's going to take us to a page that looks like this. And we're going to have letters for the different surnames that we're going to find in the book. So in this case, we're going to click on the W because we're looking for a surname that is Wilshusen. So it's in this list. So if we click on it, we will actually be taken to the list of Wilshusens that are found in this online OSB. So let's just take Adelheid right here as an example. So if we click on her, we're actually taken to a page where she's mentioned as one of the children. And you'll notice that the page kind of looks similar in format to what the printed OSB looked like. So this is what an online OSB looks like. And again, you can sometimes find them for your towns online. Okay, few words about translating these and reading these. I would say that becoming really good at using Google Translate would definitely be a help. You can just quickly, whenever you see a term that you don't know what it means, you can just pop it into Google Translate, German to English, and find out what it means. In this case, Handelsmann, of course, is tradesman. And we know that in this family, the Kolb family, we had shoemakers and we also had several masons. Another thing that you can do with Google Translate is you can actually, you don't have to just do one word. You can actually do a whole phrase. So you can go to a website and say you didn't translate this whole page to English, you just wanted to know what a portion of it meant. So you can actually copy and paste that into Google Translate, and it will tell you what that whole sentence means. In addition to the already large number of printed local family books, there are also more and more online publications of this kind. So you can translate more than just a word if you need to. We also have a copy of this book here at the St. Louis County Library. You may have a copy of this up your way as well. It is the Ernest Tody German to English Genealogical Dictionary, and we really like using this one because it focuses on genealogy terms, the type of terms that you would see in a genealogy record. So this is used a lot in our department. So I would recommend seeing where you can take a look at this book if you are doing a lot of German genealogy. Family Search has a really good German genealogical word list on their website. I especially like this because they often in other dictionaries don't go into all these different types of farmers. And for those of you who have Germans, you might have noticed that farmers can be called all types of different things based on how much of the farm they owned and so on. So I like that they have a section on the types of farmers on the Family Search website. They also have a general genealogy, German genealogy word list as well. And another website that I've noticed more and more people doing German genealogy research have been using is DeepL. I have been told by some members of the St. Louis Genealogical Society who do a lot of German research that they like using this better than Google Translate. So this is something that you might want to try. I think this actually comes from Germany, and so that may be why. Okay, similar resources, in case you see these floating around. There are some other types of books, not necessarily an Ortssippenbücher or a Familienbücher, but they're similar and they can provide similar genealogical clues. Those would be Hofgeschichten, Hausergeschichten, and a Bürgerbücher. And you can see those are farm chronicles, building chronicles, and citizen registers. We actually own many of these and we catalog them with our Ortssippenbücher. So when you look at that list of towns, you may be looking at one of these because, like I said, we put them in with those, although you should see one of these terms in the title. So you're not looking at an Ortssippenbücher, you're looking at a Hofgeschichten for a particular village. These are great and can oftentimes take you back further than an Ortssippenbuch can. These are usually written in more of a narrative style, and they're giving you the history of these farms and of the land in the town or the village. So again, at the St. Louis County Library, we do catalog these with our OSBs. This is an example of one that we have on the town of Eppe. And it's Chronik einer Landgemeinde. So again, it's a chronicle of the land of the rural community, I think is actually the actual translation. So again, it's more of a narrative style, but it does have pictures of some of the very old farmhouses and things. And again, we'll talk about the history and who owned the farms. Won't go into, all of the children or the godparents or anything like that, but it will give you some basic information. I have found some of these online recently at the Columbus, Ohio Metropolitan Library. So same thing with OSBs. I should say same thing, not necessarily, because I don't know anyone that, just collects these, but you can probably find an occasional one of these pretty much anywhere. And this has sort of been my experience is I recently found sort of a treasure trove of these on the Columbus Library's website, under German farm histories. And they actually have all of these that they've digitized. And it turns out that there was one, this one in particular, which was for my ancestors in the Osnabrück area. So when you click on it, it is just a typed, book. And again, narrative style, no symbols, nothing like that. But it was very interesting. I actually was able to glean from this some information about the farm name. And as any of you who have done German research know, sometimes you have a farm name that your ancestor's name will actually change based on the ownership of the farm. And so I was actually able to glean some information about that from this particular book. So you may want to look for one of those for your town as well. Okay, so in conclusion, Ortssippenbücher are a great resource for German genealogy. They are easy to find. They're easy to use once you get the gist of how it's going to be organized and what you're looking at. But again, you won't find these for all towns. So I always feel like whenever I give a presentation on these, it's such a great resource and the things that you can find are so neat. And, the example of the Kolbs, that was such great information, but they don't make these for all towns. I have many German lines, and I only actually have these for really a couple of the towns that my ancestors are from in Germany. But they're always publishing new ones. And we do have standing orders with the publishers to get any of the new ones that they make. So, again, you can always pop that name later on into our catalog and see if we do have, see if we at some point will get the book. And if you do have questions about any of this, feel free to email us at genealogy@slcl.org, and we can answer any of your OSB questions. If you do want to do a lookup, if we do have a book that you would like us to check a surname in, I would ask that you use that lookup form, which I think there's a link to or link on the handout for. That'll get you put in the queue faster for that lookup. So, and we do usually send those back as multi-page PDFs. And just the turnaround time kind of depends on how much we have in the queue. Sometimes it's just a couple days, sometimes it might be a couple weeks, but it's usually not any longer than that. So good luck with all of your German research, in particular with exploring the world of Ortssippenbücher. And I'll go ahead and put my video back on. And that way, if we have any questions from the Q&A, I can answer those.
Thank you very much. We do have some questions, so we'll get into those. the first one, the person is asking, do you loan your Ortssippenbüchers through interlibrary loan?
They are reference only. Unfortunately, they are almost exclusively reference only. So that's why we have that lookup service. And yes, so that's why we encourage people to use that. So either that, or again, a research trip, if you were going to be in the area, we could request it.
Thank you. And someone else is asking about the lookup service. So they wanted to clarify and see, is it free for everyone or just for library card holders?
No, it is free for everyone.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you. And our next question is, are OSBs available for German-speaking ancestors in what was Prussia but is now Poland? And we have similar questions for areas in Denmark and Pomerania.
Okay, so Pomerania, yes. Pomerania, yes. German-speaking areas of Poland, yes. I don't know that we have any in Denmark. So I don't know if there's maybe a Denmark equivalent for that. I don't think that we have any. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe there were some out there somewhere. So all I can say is go ahead and look at those lists that we have. If you follow that link on the handout, or if you do that Google for the St. Louis LibGuides, click on Ortssippenbücher, Familienbücher, and then click on those 2 PDF documents, and you can see a list of, again, if you want to see a list of the towns, you can do that, or if you want to see a list of areas, you can do that. So I would definitely check in those 2 PDFs, but also go to that Gen Wiki page, which tells you all of the books that are out there. And then again, if it's listed, then check us to see if we actually have it.
Thank you. The next one is, were Jewish families included in OSBs, or was it strictly limited to Catholic families?
So usually they are either Catholic or Protestant Lutheran within the book. However, I have seen some books where Jewish families are also included because the book used other records. They didn't just use church records. They used other records, civil records, court records, things like that. So I have seen Jewish families listed in these books. So I really think that it depends on the Ortssippen book. I think they're all a little bit different. Like I said, they tend to look the same, but there certainly are variations. We do have a collection here of German town books. Well, I guess it'd be the closest thing that we have here to an Ortssippenbücher for people doing Jewish genealogy, and that would be a Yizkor book. Those are a little bit different, but we do have a collection of those as well. The New York Public Library, I think, though, has the largest collection of those. So you might want to check there to see if they have one of those for the town. And those are definitely a more narrative style, because most of those were written after World War II, sort of trying to reconstruct the history of a town and the people who lived there. So they're a little bit different, but they might be kind of like a Jewish equivalent. But yes, I have also seen Jewish residents listed in these books as well. Not always, but I have seen them.
Thank you. Our next question is, this person's wondering, who was the most likely person to create or to compile these books in the past?
So there are publishing companies over in Germany, and I have to say that this is not one of my tasks at the St. Louis County Library. I'm not the one who orders these. We have a staff member that does. And I can't think right now specifically of the publishing companies that we usually get them from. So the example that I used in here that was the Flechtingen book, that one with that red cover, that particular book, even on that, the front page of it, just the cover, I think it says the publisher on the cover of that book, and they do a lot of them. There are multiple companies that do them. And like I said, we try to, the last time I gave this talk, I used the example of Pokemon trying to catch them all, because we're trying we're trying to catch all the Ortssippenbücher, especially since most of these are newly published. So you're not going to find them on Internet Archive, and you're not going to find them on Google Books, and you're not going to find them on Family Search as digitized books because they're way too new copyright wise. So yes, so Pokemon, trying to catch them all. But I do know for sure that the publisher on the front of that red book is definitely one that publishes a lot of them over in Germany.
Thank you. And the book that you were using for the Kolb family, we have someone who noted that it was typed, and they're wondering, are there also books available that are original handwritten books?
Most of these are typed. In fact, I don't know that I've never seen any in our collection that are not typed.
Okay. Thank you. And
that's why, and just to mention real quick, that's why if you are lucky enough to have one of these for your ancestor's town, it's great because it is so much easier to read than those original German records. Now, again, having said that, you definitely want to look at those records because they are the primary source, but it's great to look at the OSB first because you definitely get hints for what, the record says, and then it's easier to read that German script.
Would a very small village be listed along with a nearby town, a larger town in the OSBs?
Possibly, yes. And we even have some OSBs that are divided where it'll have the towns listed like sections in the book. This little town, and then everybody's in alphabetical order. This little town, everybody's in alphabetical order. So I have seen that, but I can't stress enough, it really just varies. They're all, like I said, they all might be a little bit different, but yes, I have seen that. So if you have an ancestor from a small town that is right next to maybe a little larger town. If we don't have, or if there isn't an OSB that you can find on the GenWiki site or that we have for that smaller town, I don't think it would be a waste of time for you to go ahead and request, or at least ask us if that surname is found in that little bit larger town's book.
Thank you. And I think you mentioned that the library catalogs the citizen books and farm history books with the OSBs.
We put those all together in our system. Yes. So they are a little bit different in that they read differently. They're more of a story. They're not divided up with numbers for each person in each entry. But since they are a similar, I guess, resource, we do have those together. So if we have a Hofgeschichten on a particular town, it should appear on that list.
Okay. On the LibGuide list?
On our list, yes, on our list at the St. Louis County Library. Yes.
Thank you.
I don't think in the GenWiki site though, when you're looking to see if one even exists for that town, I doubt they do it there. I think those are probably just Ortssippenbücher, but we go ahead and put them together since we kind of, consider them similar resources.
And someone else is asking, they're asking about the number of books for towns in the Kingdom of Saxony. Do you know if there are many?
There are definitely areas of Germany where you have more, but you can find them all over Germany. So what I would advise is on that same LibGuide, we have a map, and I didn't have a slide of that, but we have a map with a dot for every OSB that we have. So you can zoom in on that and you can see kind of, the areas where we have more or where we have fewer. Now, again, that's just our collection, but it probably also is sort of an overall view since we try to get as many of these as we can. It's probably also serves as an overall view of where you can find more of them. So I would definitely take a look at that map, and we do have them for all over Germany.
So I think we have time for one last question. So this person is asking about the availability of OSBs for Switzerland.
That's a great question. I am not sure off the top of my head if we have any in Switzerland. I kind of want to say we might. So again, look at the list, look at our list, see if we do have any. So start there. And then otherwise, I'm trying to think because I don't know if those would be listed. They may be listed on the GenWiki site. I'm not 100% sure. Check our list, particularly the one that divides it up by country, and go ahead and look for Switzerland and see if we have any for Switzerland on there.
Thank you very
I'm
much.
trying to think because I look at the list all the time and I know I'm trying to look at the page. I can picture the page that has Serbia, but I just can't picture what's below. I can't picture what's below that. So I'm not 100% sure if Switzerland's on there or not.
Thank you. And I just wanted to mention, if anybody has any questions following the program today, please feel free to send us an email at genealogy@acpl.info. And if you would also like a copy of the chat from today's program, please send us an email there as well, and we'll get that to you. So thank you again, Robin, for your time and sharing all of this great information with us. We really appreciate it.
Thank you all and have a great rest of your day. Thank you.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye.